So we're going to talk about buoyage today, and the buoyage system that we use typically in America, that you'll see the most of, at least in the United States, is called the lateral system of buoyage, where you have, if you were coming into a harbor from sea, you would be leaving green buoys to port, and you'd be leaving red buoys to starboard. The typical phrase that we all like to remember is red right returning. So that's if you're returning from sea, returning to port, you want to leave the red buoys on your right hand, your starboard side, and you want to leave your green buoys to port. Now the shape of the buoy is also important. These we call can buoys for obvious reasons. It looks like a can. It's got a flat top on it, it's cylindrical, and we associate cans with the color green. And these buoys, the red ones, we call nuns. A little bit of the shape of a nun's cap there, I guess. But they have a conical pointed top on them. And we associate nuns with the color red. Likewise, their numbering is significant. The nun buoys or red buoys are always numbered with even numbers, such as this one is numbered 2. The green buoys, whether they're cans or other, are always odd numbers. So you want to keep that in mind as well. Now, there are other types of buoys. Sometimes we're going to put a light on a buoy, and in order for the light to be useful, it needs to have some height, some elevation, so they raise it up on this framework here. So any buoy that's lighted, red, green, or whatever, will have some shape more or less like this. And then there are various light characteristics we'll talk about in a bit, but notice this is a red buoy and it has an even number as well. So the numbering system sticks with the color. Now over here, what we have is a sound-making buoy. This one has a bell on it, and there's a regular old bell, big bronze bell in there, and there are 4 clappers hung beside it so that as the buoy rocks with the waves, the clappers bang on the bell and you can generally hear it. This one, the bell buoy may or may not have a light on the top of it. This one here does, but that's not necessarily the case. Now, in your chart number 1 or in your light list, and there's various places you'll find this exact same diagram, they've laid out all the different types of buoyage that we have here, where we have, this is the green can that we were looking at up above, but notice there's a lot of different green ways to show the green side of the channel. This is what we call a day board, which is standing, or a day beacon, which is standing on a pole. It might have a light on it. This one doesn't have a light on it. But notice that it's green and it has a flat top. The shape carries over from the buoy to the day shape here. Notice the number carries over as well. These are odd numbers because they're green. This one here is a lighted buoy, so it's got that framework to put the light on top. Notice still got the right odd numbering system. Lots of different lighting configurations. We're not going to get into that right this minute. We'll come back to that. And what they've also provided for you here is what this will look like on the chart. So starting here with the can buoy, that basic diamond shape with the little tiny circle there is the standard shape that you will see on the chart, indicating that there's in this case, a can. The lettering is telling us that it's green, can, number 9. Anything you see in quotation marks is written on the buoy itself. If you see it in quotation marks, you'll find it on the buoy itself. And that is always done with reflective tape so that you can really see it at night. When you're looking at the buoy symbol on the chart, it's that little circle right there that tells you exactly where the buoy actually is. The diamond is just your visual indicator that it's a buoy. But the circle, when you're measuring to or from a buoy or something, you want to get the point of your dividers right dead center in the middle of that little circle right there. Now, that brings up another point, and that is that buoys are moored with chain that has a little bit of scope to it. That is, it's got a little bit of extra chain there. So a buoy will move around a little bit. Don't expect it to be exactly in that spot, but it'll be pretty darn close. But it'll wander back and forth. And that circle that it wanders in is referred to as its watch circle. just means that it meanders back and forth with the current and the tide. Symbol for a day shape over here is a square, because the day shape looks like a square. And it's telling you that it's green and that it's a number 5. The 5 will be written on the day shape. Up here, any lighted mark, any lighted buoy is going to have that little magenta circle around it right there. That tells you that it has a light. Down here, it's telling us that it's green, that the buoy is green, that the number 9 is printed on the buoy. And here's the light characteristic. So this light is flashing green every 4 seconds. Now you are going to come across lights that are not flashing, they're fixed. This is the one that will trip people up often, so pay close attention to the fact that if it says F, that means fixed, not flashing. If it's just an F, it's fixed, meaning it's on all the time, doesn't blink. You have to get the FL for it to be a flashing light, so drill that in. Flashing green every 4 seconds, single flash every 4 seconds. There's lots of different combinations of lights. We'll talk about them more later. This one over here is a fixed day mark. This is on a pole standing on the ground. The pole may go underwater, the rock may be underwater, but it's standing there. It's not moored, so it's not going to wander around at all. It's going to be in an exact position. The symbol on the chart, that dot is a more exact position, telling you it's not going to wander at all. It's standing there, so it's not moving. This exclamation point looking thing here is like a flare. That tells you that it's a light. It's got a number 1 written on it because its number 1 is in quotation marks. It's flashing. Remember, it's not fixed. It's flashing because it's FL. And it's green. That means the light itself is green. The light bulb, or the color of the light, is green. And it's going to flash once every 6 seconds. Moving over to the right, we've got all the same symbols for the red side of the channel. And the only difference here is that the nun buoy has it should be more pointed than that, but it's got a pointed top on it, a conical top. Therefore, the day marks also have a pointed top, turning them into triangles instead of squares. So the shape relates to the color. Other than that, everything here is exactly the same, done exactly the same way as we saw on the green side of things. Okay? We have a couple of other ones here. Up here, notice this says that it's the preferred channel marker. We also call that a bifurcation buoy, a bifurcation mark. It means that the channel splits, and you might go to the right, you might go to the left, which means this buoy, you might leave it on either side depending on which channel you're using. In this case, they will usually determine what's the main channel and what's the sort of secondary channel. Always look to the top color. If you're using the main channel, treat this as a green buoy. If you're using the secondary channel, the smaller channel, treat it as a red buoy. Okay? And over here we have the opposite one. This one says that if you're using the main channel, pick the top color. Treat this as a red buoy, and if you're using the secondary channel, treat this as a green buoy. Notice the chart symbol has the exact same configuration. This one's got red on top, green underneath. Over here, this one's got the green on top and the red underneath. We'll show you these on the chart next. Okay, we have another marker here. It's called an isolated danger mark. And what this is telling us is it's not so much that you're going to leave it on one side or another. You can go on either side of this, just don't come close to it. They will place this mark right over a shallow spot and in a place where there isn't really much of a defined channel. They're just marking a hazard. So go any side of it you want. North, south, east, or west, right or left, doesn't matter, but just don't come very close to it. And this one is black and red, and it's got this double top mark on it. They call these a top mark. They call this a double ball top mark. And on the chart, it shows it here. It's a black-red buoy. It's got the A in quotations, so the A is printed on the buoy. This one is lighted, and it says that it's flashing it's flashing two times every 5 seconds. So it's a double. We got another kind of buoy we talked about. That was the isolated danger mark. That's this one here. It's black and red, if you remember. It was horizontally banded, black and red. It's got the double ball top mark here, 2 black balls on top. This one is lit. We've got that magenta circle telling us it's lit. In quotation marks, it's DMP. And again, that's going to be printed on the buoy. And that does actually have relevance. It's actually relevant to Moose Point here. So the DMP is Danger Moose Point. So that's the nearest reference point. Now, this is an isolated danger because in this area here, notice the depths are all like 60 feet, 50 something feet, 80 something feet, 50 feet, but all of a sudden there's a 32-foot spot. And notice this mention right here that says it's an oil transfer area. Tankers will come in and anchor here and transfer some cargo into barges that can make it up the river. Well, many tankers draw more than 32 feet, and there's just this one 32-foot spot in the middle of this area. So that's why they put this danger mark on it. So that's a hazard marker or a isolated danger mark. You can go any side you want, you can go anywhere you want, but just don't go close to it, that's all. Full flash every 5 seconds. This one over here is unlighted, black over red, and there's no lighting configuration on it. Remember that this one does not have that magenta circle around there, but this one does have that little magenta circle that's telling you that it's lit. One more type here, kind of the opposite of the danger area buoy, the isolated danger mark. This one here is a mid-channel mark. This one is right in the middle of the channel. You can go right by it as close as you want, and it's put there deliberately to line you up, typically is to line you up for the channel and set you up to make the channel down the middle. So expect to see this buoy in the center of the channel, and it's got a red ball top mark, and it's vertically divided color scheme with red and white on the 2 vertical sides. Notice that the symbol here on the chart has a vertical line down through the diamond, and that's the location of the buoy. This is telling you that there is a top mark, that it's a circular top mark. You have to know that it's going to be a red one. It says it's RW, that means it's red and white. The vertical line tells you that the red and white stripes are vertical, and this one has in quotation marks, it has an N. N is printed on the buoy, and these letters, generally speaking, will have some relevance to the area. The Castine Harbor entrance bell, it looks just like this. The letters on it are CH for Castine Harbor. You don't see much of this, but you might see a spherical buoy like this. You might see a day mark, although, I don't know, that'd be a little tricky. It'd have to be on a long pole to be in the middle of the channel. This one here, remember we got a magenta circle here, so that's telling us that it's got a light. And here's the light, still got the ball top mark. When it's lit, a mid-channel mark like this will always be Morse alpha. It's flashing the Morse code for A, which is dot-dash. You will hear people refer to these buoys all the time as MOA buoys. That's a MOA buoy, it's a Morse alpha. So the lighting characteristic on this one will always be a dot-dash. Okay, let's go over to the chart and take a look at how these play out on our charts in the area. Okay, here we are on chart 13309. This is actually a route that you're going to be taking in one of your labs fairly soon. What we've got here is a mid-channel mark. Remember, it's a red and white mark. It's got that vertical line down the middle of the buoy telling you that it's vertically divided colors. So it's a red and white vertically striped buoy. In quotation marks is ER because ER is printed on the buoy itself, and that has relevance. It stands for Eggemoggin Reach. This little guy here tells us that there's a top mark. It was a red ball top mark because it's a mid-channel mark. And this one also has a bell on it. So we're going to see in a little while, we're going to take a look at another sound-making buoy called a gong. And the difference is a bell is just what you see. It's a real bell. It's got one tone. A gong, however, is a stack of 3 different tones, a stack of 3 gongs. So you can distinguish between the sound of the bell and the gong, because sometimes they're close enough together that you might confuse one for the other. So they'll change the tone of them. Anyway, this is a bell buoy. It's a mid-channel mark, and it's setting you up for this route from here to here. So this is the channel that you're going to want to follow through here. And this one is also a mid-channel mark, so you're going to head right for it. This one happens to be lit. The first one was not lit, but this one is lit. And because it's lit and it's a mid-channel mark, it's flashing MOA, Morse alpha, dot dash. Okay, short flash, long flash. This one is red and white. It's vertically striped because it's got the vertical line. And in quotation marks, it says EG, also relevant, standing again for Eggemoggin. And actually, this is Eggemoggin Reach here, but this is the town of Eggemoggin right here. So it's relevant to that spot. All right, so this channel here from mid-channel mark to mid-channel mark is marked. Now up in here is Bucks Harbor, and one might think, well, we're returning to Bucks Harbor from out at sea here, headed inbound, but you would be wrong. If you look here, you got all these green buoys marking rocks off to starboard here. You want to leave them to starboard. You want to leave green to the right, and you want to leave the red ones to your left or to port as you go in. Now, the reason this seems to be buoyed backwards, it's not actually, because this is a continuation of the route down Eggemoggin Reach. And Eggemoggin Reach is a passage between Deer Isle and the mainland, and you're going to come through here, turn around that mid-channel mark, and come out this way. So you are actually outbound from Eggemoggin Reach when you're passing through this channel. Now, all this is to say that although the buoyage is done logically, and it does make sense to have the red to the right when you're coming out in this direction, there are many occasions when you really do have to look at the chart to see which side you want to leave the buoy on. Be careful about making assumptions about which side to leave the buoy on unless you've already verified it with the chart. So what we have here are can buoys. Notice it says green, can, number 31. By the way, that 57 is actually it's a sounding. It's the depth on the chart. It would be easy to confuse that with a label for the buoy. But in quotation marks, it says 31, so there will be a 31 marked on that can. Number 27 here. Neither of these are lighted, neither is this one. They're all cans, they're not lighted. Over on this side, we have nuns, RN28, so that's a red nun. Number 28 is printed on the nun. This one here is 32. And so we come all the way over to this bell buoy to find a lighted mark here. So coming down Eggemoggin Reach, you're going to be leaving green cans to port. Round the corner, leaving green cans to port. Probably come up close to the bell buoy and then turn and head for the next bell buoy out here, leaving green cans to port and red right because you are returning. Now, how do they decide that this is considered returning? Let me put the pencil in the right direction here. How do we decide that that's the returning direction? When you have a reach that is a passage between two things, it's ill-defined whether you're returning to port or leaving port. So the rule of thumb there is clockwise around the U.S. continent, around the North American continent, clockwise would be considered a returning direction. Okay, so Eggemoggin Reach is, in fact, going basically west and then south and out. And that's, the Mainers, the locals up here say, well, you're returning if you're returning to Boston. So that's how we determine what's returning. But in general terms, all around the country, you can consider clockwise around the continent, when in doubt, would be considered returning. Now, we mentioned a bifurcation buoy where a channel splits. And what we've got here, if you take a close look there, you'll see this is green and red, It's horizontally banded. The line goes through it horizontally, and it's a can, so it's going to look like a can. It's going to be a can shape, and because the green is on top, if you're using the main channel, you're going to treat it like a can. But if you're using the secondary channel, you're going to treat it like it was a red buoy. So here's the choice. You're coming up this way. You're returning to Rockland or returning to Penobscot Bay, and you've got a red buoy to starboard here, green buoy to port. You're coming up this way, but now you have a choice. You can continue the main channel in this direction, or you can take the secondary channel over here and on into Seal Harbor. So if you're going to take the main channel, treat it as a green buoy and leave it to port like you did this one. But if you're using the secondary channel in this direction, treat it like a red buoy the same way you would treat that one there. So that's your bifurcation buoy. Finally, we have yet another kind of a buoy, a yellow buoy. And yellow buoys are used for any special purpose, whatever they need it for. In this case, what it is it's actually there was a dumping ground out here. I don't know if they're still using it or not, but there was a dumping ground out here, and so they marked it with a yellow buoy that's got a P on it. I think, is it a P or an F? I guess it's an F. That's an F printed on the buoy. It's flashing yellow. It's a yellow buoy, so it's going to have a yellow light, flashing every 4 seconds. And this one is privately maintained by whoever was using that dumping ground. So anyway, yellow buoys can be for any number of different purposes. They're called special purpose buoys. Okay, earlier I had mentioned that there's a difference between a bell and a gong. And a bell is a single tone. It is one big bronze bell. It's got 4 clappers on it, but they're all ringing the same bell, so it's all one tone. But notice that right here, right nearby, there's another one, and you could be confused as to which one you were hearing if they both sounded the same. So this one they've made into a gong, which is a stack of 3 separate gongs of different sizes, so they each ring a different tone. So this one is a 3-tone bell. Each one is operated by wave action. So as the buoy rolls back and forth, the clappers hit the gong or the bell and make it ring. Therefore, it is possible on a really, really glassy, flat, calm day, it's possible that these might not be ringing. One trick in the fog that was to do would be to go around in a circle quickly if you're a powerboat and make some wake, and then stop and listen. And as your wake rolls out, it would make these things ring and allow you to find them. We also talked about day beacons, which are standing on a ledge. So here we have a day beacon right here. Notice it's a triangle shape instead of the buoy shape, which is diamond. So the triangle shape represents a day beacon, and that just means that it's not floating, it's standing on a pipe. It's stuck on a pipe on the rock. So it's not going to move at all. It's going to be right there. Again, it's red. It's got a number 22 printed on it. The reason it's triangular is because it's red, and it's as if it has a pointy top, the way a nun buoy would. Over here, we have the opposite. This one's a green square, and that's a green day beacon. It's got the flat top on it like a can buoy does, so it relates to the green color. And it's got a label there that I can't even read from here, but anyway, it's a green one. Again, it's standing on a rock. It's not lit. If it was lit, it would be given that sort of exclamation point kind of a mark that we'll take a look at. We go now to look at lighthouses. So, we have one more type of sound buoy over here. This is a whistle buoy. Now, this whistle buoy is an interesting thing. It's often referred to as a groaner because it's a whistle that's also wave activated, so as the buoy rolls back and forth, a plunger or a piston moves up and down inside a whistle, and it kind of makes a moaning sound. So again, it's just a different sound so that you don't get it confused with other buoys that are nearby. Now, lighthouses. Lighthouses get this symbol that looks like an exclamation mark, magenta color. The dot there is the actual location of the lighthouse, and this one is up on the land. And the label here tells us a lot about it. So This is the Deer Isle Thoroughfare light. That's the name of the light. It's not printed on it anywhere. It's flashing every 6 seconds, single flash every 6 seconds. The light itself, the light bulb, is 52 feet above mean high water. Okay, 52 feet is the height, and it's nominally visible for 8 miles. Now, on a super clear day, it would be visible farther than that. On a foggy day, of course, it would be visible less than that, and we'll go through that calculation later in the semester. This one happens to have a horn as well, and that's just an electronic whistle that blows on a timed basis. Some of them only blow when it's foggy, some of them blow whether it's foggy or not. We have another one over here, Goose Rocks light. And Goose Rocks light is named Goose Rocks. Again, it's not printed on the thing itself. This one is flashing red, so it's a red light flashing every 6 seconds. This one is 51 feet above the water. That's the bulb itself, nominally visible for 7 miles. This one also has a horn. And this acronym here, MRAS, is it's a
Marine Radio
activated
sound system.
There we go. Thanks. So that you have to go to the light list to find out what channel on your VHF radio to key, and you key that channel. You don't have to say anything, just hold down your transmitter and it will trigger the horn to blow. That way the people who live right here don't have to listen to it blowing all the time. It'll only blow when somebody basically asks it to blow. Okay. Coming closer to home, we can get to the Castine Harbor Bell, the Castine Dice's Head Lighthouse. This is one you can walk right down and take a look at. And this one is up, as you've seen it up in the house up at Dice's Head. It's called Dice Head Light. It's flashing every 6 seconds. And because it doesn't tell us what color it is, you have to assume it's white. And that's a fact. If it doesn't tell you a different color, it will always be white. So a single flash every 6 seconds. This one's quite high up because it's up on the bluff and up above that house. So this one's 134 feet above the water and nominally visible for 11 miles. Okay. We have another kind of buoy, another kind of light that is a bit of an oddity in that down here, Whitehead Island, we have a light that is occulting green every 4 seconds. OC, occulting. That means that it's off, it's on more than it's off. In other words, it's almost like the off is the flash. So the light stays on, then it winks off briefly, and then it comes on again and stays on. And it goes off, it turns off every 4 seconds. It's green, but it'll turn off every 4 seconds, but most of the time it's on. This one's 75 feet above water and nominally 6 mile visibility. This one also has the MRAS horn on it.